Where are you at right now?
I am in LA right now. I booked a studio out here because me and my assistant were gonna shoot some content today.
Nice.
So I figured I was like, why not do the podcast here? So
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, it's a nice
yeah, it's
background.
pretty cool out
Yeah,
here.
that's pretty dope.
You see her in the background, she's recording stuff.
No, it's good. So you got an assistant now, huh?
Yes.
How long have you had an assistant?
A couple days?
Oh, really? Oh, it's new. So like she better like it's the testing phase. You got to prove herself, huh?
Yes, this is our first week working together. She's already killing it.
That's
She
awesome.
brought this microphone with her today. I was like, damn, girl, like
Damn, that's what's up.
yeah, I'm impressed.
Are
So
you?
I'm excited.
So you're from California, but what part of California are you from?
From South Central LA.
Okay. So how
Yeah.
far was the drive to where you're at now?
I don't live in South Central LA anymore. I was born there.
Mm,
Right now I'm living in the Inland Empire
okay.
area, like Corona area.
Okay.
So it was like I want to say 45 minutes, 45 to an hour.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well,
that,
Crystal, what prompted me to reach out to you is I follow you on social media, and I'm like fascinated with people that have built this, like I don't even know what you really call it, like a brand or an image, like all through social media. And
yeah.
what stood out about you is like you're pretty open and you talk about like mental health. Um,
Yes.
and I love talking about mental health. Like I struggle with anxiety and um, crazy crap that I struggle with. But so it's unique, and you don't see it a whole lot from people that are brand influencers, or they have a following that really talk about it. Like if you look at it from just the phone and you look at someone's Instagram page or TikTok page, whatever you're looking at, it looks like they have this like perfect life. And
Right.
you're pretty open and transparent about stuff, and that's what prompted this conversation.
I'm thankful and grateful. Thank you for reaching out. I was
Yeah,
really excited about this, to be honest, because I've seen your YouTube channel before. That video that you sent me in an email when you reached out,
yeah,
I was like jumping up and down in my room because I've done like research on carnivore diet and stuff like that, and I've like tried it out, and I still try to dabble in with that sometimes. So that video that you did with that doctor,
yeah.
I've seen it before. I've seen your guys' interview before. So when I saw your email and in like my emails and stuff, I was like, oh my God, this is like crazy.
That's so
It's like a
wild.
yeah, I was really excited about it.
That's so wild to hear, because sometimes you feel like people don't like listen to your content. So when you said that, I was like, oh wow, people actually do listen and watch, and it's just wild to see. Dr. Saldivar is an amazing person. I don't know if you subscribe to her channel or follow her on Instagram, but she's pretty amazing with the knowledge, and I find her to be pretty transparent about the carnivore diet in itself. So what intrigued you about carnivore? Are you doing it right now, or?
I so I feel like I've just I think it just reverts back to mental health always. I've always tried to find different things that are going to help that. And I came across Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson's it was a video he did with Joe Rogan, and he talked about how the carnivore diet he cured his depression, right? And how he talked about his daughter's autoimmune diseases and all that stuff. And I follow her now too, and I listen to her stuff too. And so I was like, man, I have to try this. And the only reason I actually found out about it is because my friend Christian, he reached out to me on Instagram. You know how just sometimes you meet people on Instagram and you just click with them. And
Yeah.
I started fasting first, and then he was like, let me tell you about something else that's helped me like with my mental clarity and stuff. And he sent me those videos of Jordan Peterson talking about the carnivore diet. And I had just finished a 72-hour fast.
Ooh.
And he was like, I want you to listen to this and tell me what you think. And after I watched that video, I went straight to the market and I bought like 5 steaks and like flat steak. Like it was just, I feel like I'm an extremist. So when I want to try things, I just dive in, like,
Yeah.
let's go
Are
and see what happens. So
are you
yeah.
are you into astrology or anything like that? Like, what's your I don't even know what it's called because I'm not really.
Sign.
Yeah, well, what's your sign?
I'm Leo.
You Leo? Are you into that
Yeah.
stuff?
I am, and to a certain extent, I am. I feel like I know my sun sign, my moon sign, my rising
Mm.
sign. My rising sign I'm very fond of, which is Aquarius, and I feel like sometimes I read traits of a Leo that I'm like, that's not me though. But I
Mm.
read traits of an Aquarius. Supposedly, your rising sign is more of like your personality.
Mm.
So when I see the traits of an Aquarius, I'm like, okay, I feel like that's more me. Like Aquarius are more humanitarians and um, like environmentalists and about like helping people, and I feel like that's definitely more my personality. So
Interesting. I'll have to look into that.
yeah.
I'm a Gemini, and I feel like some of the stuff I read as Gemini, I'm like, I don't feel like I don't think that's me. But like you said,
Mhm.
I hone in so much so that my family like they get annoyed because I like hone in on certain things. Like right now, my thing I'm honing in on is Chat GPT. Have you messed with that yet?
Okay.
Have you messed with
I've
that?
heard of that. I've
Oh
heard
my
of that
god.
recently.
Well, it's so for social media, it might help you and like write posts and stuff, but you can like tell it or ask it a question. Or so here's a perfect example. I told it to write a script in Joe Biden, like a Joe Biden script, s- given a review on this podcast,
Okay.
and it was pretty wild. Like it
Wow.
went like it started off, "Hello, my fellow Americans. I wanted to tell you about a podcast that I'm listening to right now." Like a full script, like a
Whoa.
full thing. And then I did it on. I said the same thing, but I exchanged it with Donald Trump. And like
Yeah.
one of the things in there was like, well, I don't like fake news, and that's why I like listening to John because it's not fake news. It's hilarious, but like I'm kind of like you in a sense of I tend to like hone in on certain things for a very long time, and if I'm
Yeah.
passionate about it, then it's like it becomes a part of me, like a limb on my body. So are you experimenting with carnivore or like animal based right now, or what are you doing now?
Yes, I actually I think the longest I've gone with carnivore diet is like I think maybe a little bit over 2 weeks.
Mm,
And it's so difficult
it is.
because I love fruit and bread and all that stuff, right? And when I felt like when I first dove into the diet, I was I'm so hard on myself that I was causing myself more depression.
Mm,
So I was like, man, like I want to do this, and I just keep messing up. I keep giving into the cravings. I keep, and I eventually was like, you know what? Okay, so I have control of this depression situation. I feel like it was just like a switch that I was like, okay, it's a mental state, and what you decide to think and what you decide to believe about yourself. And I was like, okay, I'm fine. I can't be so hard on myself to the point where when I'm gonna have fruit or bread or something, I'm like, okay, my mental fog's here. I got my depression now, and so I just, I guess it was just that simple. I just said, okay, I'm not depressed anymore. I just decided that, and I enjoy food whenever I want to now. I'll have like a croissant here and there.
yeah.
Croissants are my weaknesses, and I'll have mostly carnivore diet. I still try to have like a ribeye steak at least once a day or something. But it's just been all over the place right now too because like you mentioned earlier, I've been moving. There's just been so much going on in my personal life that it's been kind of hard to stick to the carnivore diet right now. But I eventually do want to get back on it again, like clean, just to see how it goes. So
Have
yeah,
you
that's where I'm at with that.
have you heard of Dr. Paul Saladino?
No.
So definitely give him a look up. He wrote a book called The Carnivore Code, and he was promoting a strictly carnivore diet.
Okay.
He wrote a book about it, and he was actually on Joe Rogan too. So that podcast is a good listen. And um, a year or two later, after he wrote the book, he like did a self check, and he realized that he wasn't living as optimally as he could. So he
Okay.
started adding fruit in, and he added like he'll eat papaya, mango, bananas, and he started adding honey in. And I think he rewrote the book. I think he wrote the Carnivore 2.0, and where he
Okay, is that the Carnivore MD
the Carnivore
2.0
MD.
guy?
Yeah, 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 the Carnivore
Okay,
MD.
okay, I do. I follow him, but I didn't know
Okay,
he had a book out.
yeah. So I think he has two. I think he has like the Carnivore Code, and then the Carnivore MD2 or whatever the second book is. But the reason I appreciate him is because he he wrote a book about something that he passionately believed in,
Yeah.
and then he realized, well, I'm not as healthy as I can. I'm not feeling as good. So then he redid it. Anyone that can like admit their mistakes, as me, like
Yeah.
like it's hard for me to admit, to admit when I'm wrong. But he did it publicly, and he has got these. He's got a lot of followers, and so people talk a lot of crap about him. But I appreciate that. You know, like
Yeah.
I appreciate that he came
It's
back and
real.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I agree. It's real. I've seen him. Uh, I follow him on Instagram, and I do love what he talks about and all that stuff. I feel like his take on the carnivore diet, or just even a whole foods diet, is more realistic because you do get to enjoy fruit, you get to enjoy your meats, you get to enjoy your healthy fats and all that stuff. And I'm like, damn, maybe I should. Now that we're talking about it, I'm just like, okay, maybe I should try that
Yeah,
lane
no,
a little more,
it's definitely a lot easier. So I'm married and I have kids, and like tonight, we want to take the kids out and enjoy stuff. So
Yeah.
we're going to like Dave and Buster's, and like I I do well with just not being around that kind of stuff. If I'm not
Hmm.
around it, then I'm good. But if I get around it, I have no self control. I'm just like I gorge, and I even though I feel like shit, I just overeat, and I don't know what it is. Like I don't know what it is, but I just can't say no. You know what I mean? But I don't want to live in a bubble. Like I don't want my
Exactly.
family to live in a bubble. So I think it's like a certain amount of balance, or
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. I feel like another part, or another level of extremism,
Yeah,
right? Like you have your vegans, and then you have your carnivores, and then you have like, so I'm like, okay, where is the balance in between there? It's like the whole foods diet, really not having any of like the the processed foods. I feel like whenever I do that, if I do eat anything that's packaged or like chips, or I don't know, I feel like that's when I feel the worst.
yeah,
The worst. If I'm eating clean and I'm cooking all my meals, whether it's steak or eggs, or if I um, have some fruit here and there, I'm still okay. But whenever I do have like processed food, if I have like McDonald's or something,
oh
I'll feel like crap for like a couple of days, and
yeah.
it's
No,
yeah.
it takes a toll on me a couple of days too. Uh, like mental health wise, what does it do to you? How do you feel?
I I feel it in my body so much. It's it's so like I start having like congestion. Like
Mm.
when he talks about seed oils, that carnivore MD, what's his name again? I'm sorry,
Paul
his name
Saladino.
Paul Sanadino. Okay, so when he talks about seed oils, whenever I've known to be like seed oils in anything I eat, I get severely congested, and I'll be congested for a couple of days,
Mm.
that where it even affects my hearing a little bit.
Wow.
Because you know how when you're really congested, it's in your ears
Yeah,
too.
you're stopped up like the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And that I feel the congestion. I just feel really heavy. The mental fog is so bad, and it's just like, yeah, it's just really heavy. Even when I'm trying to tell myself like, no, I'm not depressed. I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's still really heavy there. Like you just don't feel good. It's
Yeah.
it's intense. Yeah.
Being Hispanic too, when you went on this diet, I'm assuming, I'm making an assumption, you're obviously
Yeah.
Latino, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know some people are like, oh my God, like I can't believe you
Yeah.
assumed.
Everybody gets canceled nowadays.
I
Oh my
know,
God.
it's so crazy. That's a whole nother topic we can get into, but
Yeah.
um, do you, does your family think you're crazy when you eat this way? Like if you tell them like you're just eating all meat, like
Oh my gosh.
they think you're
I
crazy?
I've never actually, I keep everything I share with my family very minimal. Like
Mm.
if I it's just obviously, coming from Latinos, a Latino family, anything you say can it just be an attack on who you are as a person. Like they just dig at you, right? And
Yeah.
that gets heavy. So I don't really share things anymore. I feel like the people who follow me on social media know me more than my own family does, to
That's
be honest.
interesting.
And I've never mentioned to them that I've only eaten meat. I just I kind of look around and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna eat this. Like I just keep it a little low key. But when I'm fasting, that's the hard thing. I've tried to tell like my parents and cuz like my sister, brother-in-law, all that stuff about fasting because they always ask me like, how do you eat so much and stay so thin? And I'm like, man, I mean, it goes back to diet, but also exercising.
Yeah.
But I do fast often. So I always tell them about that. There's been times where I've gone to like a family barbecue or something and I'm fasting and I don't eat and that sucks, man. It sucks.
Yeah.
So they always look at me whenever I do fast, they're looking at me like, damn, like you're crazy. Like why do you fast? Like
Have you
you're not gonna have café con leche in the morning, like café con pan. And I'm like, no, that's really bad for you. You're not supposed to break your fast with carbs and sugar,
yeah.
like
Have
yeah.
you experimented with like animal organs at all?
I've recently tried liver,
Okay.
beef liver.
Yeah, what'd you think?
It's I didn't I don't know. I tried to incorporate it in certain breakfasts. When I do have a breakfast, I'll have like scrambled eggs. I'll do some ground beef and then I'll add in like chopped up beef liver in there.
Hmm,
It's not too bad. It's definitely an acquired taste. Like
for
if you're
sure.
not used to it, you might not like it. But I heard someone say you either really like it or you don't like it. So I feel
Yeah.
like I've liked it since I do eat it sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
family, I mean, it's a point of contention when I go visit my family because I
Yeah.
try to eat mostly meat around them and I'll have
Yeah.
like avocados and stuff. And it's just like the constant questioning like um they think I'm crazy. Like at one time we were at a family gathering and everyone was eating cake. Okay, so everyone
Oh,
was eating cake and ice cream, and they were like concerned that I was eating raw liver. Like they were like on like I was just like I kind of stopped the conversation and I was like, you know how like y'all are eating cake and ice cream and I'm eating raw like y'all are getting on to me for eating raw liver. You know how crazy this is? Like
yeah.
so I think being Hispanic and maybe just because I'm Hispanic and I don't know what it's like to be a white person or an African American, but
Yeah.
it's like you're not eating tortillas or beans or like the chicharrones or like anything like that. You're missing like you're crazy. You're just like not a normal person.
Yep.
Um,
It's totally true. I feel like I've starting to open up, started to open up a little more with my family recently when I got sober
hmm,
because I felt like I never really had like a good relationship with them and I never realized it. And so now I'm really trying to make an effort to be a little more open about things that I do. And so when I was like on a phone call with my parents recently, and I was on the phone with them for like 30 minutes, and we were talking about my diet and about fasting and all that stuff. And my dad's like, "Oh, so what do you eat?" And I said, "Well, in the mornings, if I do have breakfast, which usually is very rare if I do have breakfast, I said I'll have like scrambled eggs with bacon or something,
hmm,
or I'll be fasted most of the day and then I'll just have like two ribeye steaks and I'm good until the next day. So if they're just like, what the hell? Like, no tortillas, no arroz. And I was like, no, none of that. Like it's just you don't need it, you know?
yeah,
It I feel like also with the diet, you kind of have to see what works for you. Just because I feel like if you dive into certain diets and you keep trying and you don't see anything like results wise or if you feel like it's not working for you, you kind of have to little adjust things because everybody's different.
right,
So
absolutely.
yeah, it's and when I was telling them about that, they were just like, "You're crazy!" Like and I said, he's like, oh, I want to lose this many pounds. And I'm like, okay, well, stop eating 20 tortillas when you're having beans and eggs and stuff. Cut it down to maybe two, maybe three tortillas. But
Right.
he's like, sometimes I'll sit down and I'll eat 20 tortillas. I'm like, freak, man, like I can't even.
That's fu-
We used to do that. I used to do that.
yeah, no,
Like
for sure.
tortillas with everything.
Yeah,
That's part of their culture.
it's a staple, and
Yeah.
it's tough too because I want my family to be healthy. And something that I'm trying to work on is like not projecting so much because like through this podcast, I've been able to talk to amazing people. So I have like this podcast that I started, and then me and my buddy do another podcast. So like combined episodes, I think we're at like 100. Like I've done 180 in the last couple of years, and I've been able to talk to some like amazing people, right? Like, and I feel like it's like a learning, like a free education that I get because like like you mentioned Dr. Saldivar, I'm able to sit down and like chat with her for an hour about
Yeah.
just the diet stuff,
Yeah.
and sometimes like I project what I learned onto people, even though they don't want it. Like I
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and I'm trying to work on that, and I know I do that with my family, but it's so hard, like not to.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and I know that's something I need to work on. I don't know if you struggle with the
Yeah.
same thing or not.
I've I feel like I'm good with it because like I said, I've kept everything I share with them to just a minimum. And when I'm around and when I felt like I went through my spiritual awakening and through my got to a different level of consciousness and learning things about nutrition and ingredients and stuff that are in your food, and I feel like I have to love them and just let them live their life
Mm,
because as much as I can tell someone, like, hey, this is not healthy, the way you're eating, do you even know what's in this food that you're consuming every day? You're having coffee with creamer every day. Do you know what's in the creamer?
right.
How much sugar is in the creamer? How many other chemicals are in the creamer? If you look at the ingredients list, do you even know what this xanthan gum is? Do you know what this, have you done research? You want to do that because you care about them, but I just let that be. I'm just like, man, like I can't do nothing about it. I just have to make sure that if whenever they're ready, if they see that I'm obviously taking care of myself and they see that I move differently now, and if they ever do want to come to me with some questions, I'm always there. So I just let them know that. And whenever they do ask me things like, oh, what are you doing now? You lost so much weight. You did it. And I'm like, okay, I can tell you, but it's if you want to change your life, then you have to like do that on your own whenever you're ready. I feel
Right.
like that works with everybody, right? Like
Yeah,
people only make
no.
changes in their lives when they want to.
Right.
So
That's very mature of you. And I'm not totally there yet. And I recognize it. I recognize it big time. But
not easy.
yeah, no, it's definitely not because I care about them. And I'm like, I try not to be the one to bring it up though. Like usually like growing up in like a Hispanic, like we just like, we talk a lot of shit to each other.
Yeah.
My buddy that I do the podcast with, like we've had to have some tough conversations amongst each other, and to the point where it's like, hey, you're kind of hurting my feelings, but I'm like, well, you're talking shit too, and I'm
Yeah.
talking shit. But one time, like it was like an awakening. We every April or every Easter day we have like a big family gathering, and I was sitting there and I was like, holy crap, the last like 3 hours me and my cousins have just been dogging each other, just like, and that's just how we communicate, where we just talk a lot of shit. And like I grew up in that, like I grew up just talking shit to people, and that's like, that's not right, but that's just how like we show our love. Like if we didn't talk shit, then we were probably mad at you or something.
Yeah.
And that's what so I had to come back and tell him, I'm like, hey man, I just grew up in this like hostile environment that like that's how we showed love, and I'm not saying it's right. So we had to come to like a like agreement, let's not talk so much shit to each other, like
Yeah.
so
I like that though. I feel like that breeds healthy masculinity,
yeah, for
like
sure.
for guys, like you need to be tough. You need to like, all right, know how to take a joke. I feel like guys have it so hard that you have to be good at like taking the shots and taking all that stuff because when you don't grow up in that type of environment that you're talking about, a little aggressive, a little like making fun of each other, you get a little too sensitive and
Oh, for
you
sure.
become a little more feminine and you're
Yeah.
even though you're a guy, like so I
Yeah.
get that. I like that. I think that's cool.
That's where that's funny you say the word feminine because like when me and my buddy who is white, I would tell him I was like, man, you're acting real feminine right now. Like I'd use that exact words, and that was like a stab at him. And I wasn't trying to stab him. I'm just like, dude, like if you can't like keep up with me,
Yeah.
then don't start. Like when it's
Yeah.
not the best way. I got a funny story. My when I was 14, my parents were out of town, and we had a brand new Explorer. My parents just got a brand new Explorer. Like we weren't like rich or anything, so we just like this brand new Explorer is a big thing. And me and my buddy took it out for a joyride, and I was 14, and I didn't even make it like a mile down the road, and I wrecked it. Well, I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, and I flew out of the window because the window was rolled down, and it landed on my head. Like the Explorer landed on my head, like no bullshit. And I think this is where some of my like mental things come from. But
Oh my God.
so I was in the ICU for I think 2 weeks. Anyway, my mom that day I got life flighted to the hospital. My mom had to come back from Dallas. She was in Dallas, so it was like 3 hours away from Austin. So she's driving back from Dallas, and she told me this after the fact. She said when she got there, she was like obviously shaken up, and my uncle said, "Hey, don't go in there and let him see you cry." Because he doesn't need that right now. Like like they didn't know if I was gonna die at this point, right? Like they thought I was like gonna die. Um, so she walks in, and I remember this like it was just yesterday. Like she walks in, and I'm like coughing up blood. I'm like, Mom, I'm so sorry. I just want to go home. And she like looked at me straight faced, and she said, "You better be glad you're in this fucking hospital and not at home right now because it'd be a lot worse for you at the house." And I was like, "Oh my god, yes, ma'am." Like that's just the kind of shit that I grew up in. Like my family's
Yeah.
tough. Like we like tough on each other. So I don't think every other culture is like that.
Yeah. I think I agree with you there. And I think your mom doing that for you, that's great
Mm,
because I mean, you wouldn't be the man that you are today, right? Like you have to be the backbone for your family and the provider, and that's how a mother uh, raises a healthy masculine man. You have to be tough.
yeah.
And I I was gonna say something I totally forgot. I think it was toward what you're saying, where she was at the hospital bed. There was something about that. I forgot what it was.
Where
Um,
she didn't want to see me crying or my uncle
yeah.
didn't want
Oh,
me.
okay, okay, yeah, yeah. So I feel like a lot of that has to do like whenever I feel like I'm going through something, I also don't like to share things with people because I don't want people to feel sorry for me. Like I don't
Mm,
want people to have pity and like treat me a certain way because oh I feel bad for her. Like I don't want to be coddled. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I want to make sure that I could get through this situation on my own and figure it out. Uh, that's I don't know. That's just something I feel like I have, but also because mm, our culture is kind of like that. My dad's always been like that. He's always been like you have to learn how to take care of yourself and know how to do things on your own. But I feel like that's more now when I've gotten older. When I was younger, that was not the situation.
Were you a spoiled
And
little
I
girl or
realized
what?
that recently. What's that?
Were you a spoiled girl or you
Oh my
spoiled
gosh,
dad?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I went to this class recently that the instructor, his name is Tim Delgado, and I always talk about him because he changed my life.
Okay.
I literally in that class, I every all the things he was saying, I felt were literally telling me like, "Girl, sit your ass down,"
Mm,
and it was had to do with being the youngest girl in a Latino family,
mm,
the youngest, attractive, right, and spoiled. I didn't grow up with structure. I didn't grow up with discipline, so I didn't respect authority too much. And now I think when I'm older now, I felt like I was so out of touch with reality because I was always handed things to me, or just I was just always treated a certain way because I look a certain way.
Mm,
And I didn't realize that until having or taking that class and that instructor breaking it down, how you can have positive trauma. It's not always negative trauma.
mm,
You're being spoiled and just handed things like that. You can have like that's you can how to explain this, have like a certain sense of entitlement when you get older, and that only hinders you from growing, right? When you're
right.
older. So it's a lot of stuff like that that I learned recently, and it's been so great. I feel like I'm in a different state now when I'm talking to people. I feel more grounded. I feel more like I can really get in touch with my feminine side and not be so masculine all the time, because that's also an unhealthy masculine. Like when you're how to explain this, when you're always trying to control a situation,
Mm.
that's toxic, and just things like that. There's just so many things that I realized in that class that I was just like blown away. It was crazy.
That sounds like a
It's
dope
crazy.
class. And being,
Yeah.
being, you know, you were raised like in a different generation. I imagine we're about the same age. Um, so being on Instagram and you know posting like you're a model obviously, and um, does your dad feel weird about that now? Do y'all have those you know those talks, or when you first started
I
was it weird?
When I first started, it was I initially wanted to pursue acting,
Mm,
and anything that had to do with not being a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, um, a dentist, whatever, was looked down upon. So I never had that actual support from them when I wanted to pursue anything in the arts field.
mm,
And it was just never realistic to them. And uh, I feel like they tried their best to be supportive whenever I'd come up with telling them like, "Hey, I'm gonna have a photo shoot today," or something. They didn't really like it. Like I could feel the tension all the time, and yeah, it was always an awkward conversation. It was, and I feel like that's why now I keep everything to a minimum. I don't really share things. They don't even know that I do what I do. They don't know.
mm.
My mom kind of knows that I do modeling, but they don't know that I'm an influencer to a certain extent, and they don't know that I'm making an impact somehow on other people out here. You know, they don't really know that stuff, and we'll see when the time comes, because the ultimate goal for me was has always been to retire them eventually, you know?
Yeah,
And when that day comes, I'm gonna be like, this is what I've been working towards. Like, this is what it is, you know? And who knows when that'll happen, but hopefully soon. And yeah, it's tough with a Latino um, family, and they're from Mexico, so they're really
oh,
traditional,
okay,
like very traditional, conservative. They're to a certain extent, right? They're really open minded when it comes to certain other things, but yeah, they're very traditional, and I love that about my family too, because I'm very family oriented because of that.
I had you know a lot of female cousins, and the way they grew up is a lot different than the way the boys grew up. It's like they're a
Yeah,
lot stricter, and I wrestle with that too because I have three daughters,
yeah.
and
Oh man.
I don't want yeah. So I have my oldest daughter, she's 14, and then I have a 12, and then we have my wife and I just had twins, so they're three, and one is a boy and a girl.
Oh my
We
God.
definitely weren't trying for twins, but
That's cool.
but yeah, I'm worried that um what kind of dad I'm gonna be like with if they approach me and say like, hey, I'm gonna be an OnlyFans model or something. Like I don't want to have a negative reaction to that because I
Yeah.
know that that's just something that women do and they make a healthy living and
Yeah.
but I'm raised in the generation kind of like you were like within we're just conservative, we just don't do
Yeah.
stuff like that, so my mindset's kind of like I'm kind of in the middle, you know. I'm like got the old school mentality and I got a little bit of the new stuff, so
That's good.
I don't know.
Balance.
Yeah.
It's balance.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because So this class that I'm telling you about, he gives us tools of how to break down certain things that are causing our anxiety or
Mm.
causing, let's just say I'm feeling guilty about having um, my modeling, right? Or having my OnlyFans. And he has you, okay, so why do you feel that guilt? He has you break down that guilt. Where is it coming from? And I figured out that it was because I had my family on this pedestal
Mm.
and everything they said was affecting everything that I was trying to decide in my life. Nothing was ever good enough. I was always trying to live up to their expectations and nothing I ever did was just ever good.
Mm.
And so I said, man, he's like he said, if you didn't give mom and dad like that word so much power, how would your life be so different now?
Ooh.
He said if they were just random people in your life and they said things about what you are, who you are, you wouldn't care,
Mm.
right?
Right.
But because you call them mom and dad and you add so much power to that label, you make yourself feel guilty. You feel a certain way about making certain decisions because you're still trying to get their approval, you know? So
Right.
I had to come to terms with that like I can't make everybody happy. And
Yeah.
I love them. And if anything ever happens to where um that talk comes and it blows shit up, then I just have to hope for the best and see what happens. But
That's
in the
deep.
meantime, I feel like I'm in the thick of it right now and I can't just like let up anymore because I've always done that.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm pursuing something I want, I let that, my parents, my whole family, like that in the back of my head subconsciously hold me back from doing things that I need to be doing or pursuing because I just think I'm like, damn, what are they gonna think? They're not
Yeah.
gonna like it. They're not gonna like it. It's like, F that, man. I gotta go for it. Like, I
D-
gotta go for it.
does it bother you? Does it like mess with your mind that you're like that you don't tell them that you do like modeling and stuff? Does it bother you that way?
Yes.
Because now you're doing like the opposite, right? Instead of like not doing it because you don't want to hurt them, you're gonna do it. Um, but does it weigh on you that you don't tell them that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I go through like so many things that I am very proud of that I've done and just accomplishments, little accomplishments that I want to share with them. And I don't because I just don't think that they'll actually be proud of what I'm
Mm,
doing.
yeah.
So I just have to like hold it in and just wait till like that moment comes and I'm like, hey, like this is what I've been working toward. It's always been for you guys or and
Right.
I don't know. But it does affect me. It does affect me that I can't really like be open with them about stuff like that just because I know that the reaction isn't going to be what I would want it to be. And I feel like that's me being realistic about it?
Yeah. They just won't understand. Like social media, like
Yeah.
you're an influencer. What does that even mean? Like you make money
Yeah.
from like that, it's just something like even me, like I'm in media and I talk to a lot of people and I still don't understand. It's weird. Like
Yeah.
it's not something that where you go in and punch a time card and you got set hours. Like it's just
Oh yeah.
it's completely different.
Oh yeah. And I used to do that. I worked as a
Mm.
veterinary assistant for a couple years, and I loved the job, but it got so bad for me mentally and emotionally because I feel like people don't really talk about that side of the job either. Like when you're in the veterinary industry, it gets so heavy sometimes because you want to help these animals and you love them and you care about their well-being, but sometimes you care more about the animals than the owners themselves.
Mm.
And sometimes people have pets and can't even get proper care for them. They can't afford the surgery that they need to do or the medicine. So they end up putting the dog down
Mm.
or um, there was literally euthanasia every day, like 20, maybe 10 animals, depending. Like it's heavy.
Yeah.
You have to know you can't get attached to animals sometimes, and it's very hard not to do that because sometimes you're working on a patient and you're like working on them, and then they just don't make it, or the owner says, "I ran out of money, put the dog down." Like it's a tough industry. So I had to like figure out, all right, like, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? I see these veterinarians too that I would work for, and a lot of them aren't very happy. Like they're miserable, they're angry, they're like stressed out. Like some of them are like picking out their hair and just like it's crazy because their license could be taken away too if they're not accommodating to the clients. Like the clients are the ones that are in charge, not the doctor. You can
Yeah.
only suggest what you can do for your animal, but it's up to the client whether they do want to do it or not or can afford it.
Yeah.
So it just got heavy, and I was like, man, I need to do something because this isn't what I want to do. And I, when I quit that job, my parents were angry. They were just so mad because I had full benefits. It was a good job. I had a
Yeah.
good job. And I was like, man, I don't know what's going to happen, but I need to trust this process. It was hard, and it has been hard. And it's just like, I feel like now I'm at another place where I'm like, okay, I'm almost there. I feel like I'm almost there. And I have to keep going. Like
Yeah.
I can't let up now.
So
So
what was that transition like? Like, did you go to another job, or was it you left the vet clinic and it was just like, I'm doing this like Instagram, like modeling, OnlyFans, like all the time?
I always did the modeling, even though I was doing the animal industry stuff, but I never told anyone at work or anything. But
Mm.
somehow someone always found out about my Instagram at work, and everybody started to be like, "Oh, Crystal's a model," like, and whatever. So I still did it on the side, and then when I walked into work that day, I was actually gonna take my 2 weeks. I was gonna put in my 2 weeks that day. I walked into work. Oh my gosh, there was a dog that had to go out or go home. He came in for seizures, and I was going to remove his catheter. And I walked in, I went down to the cage, I took the catheter out of the it was a chihuahua, and I grabbed him, and he just peed all over me.
Oh.
And I was like, I can't take this anymore. So I just like, I literally got up and I left. I didn't turn in my resignation letter. I didn't tell anybody that I left. I left. I texted my manager, and I told her, hey, like, I was supposed to put in my 2 weeks today, but to be honest with you, I don't think I could put in another 8 hours of going through this anymore.
Mm.
I was really in a really bad place. I was drinking
Mm.
um, all the time. I was doing drugs to keep from feeling drunk all the time,
Yeah.
and it was a really bad situation. So I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna have to put my mental health here first. I'm gonna have to quit this job and figure something else out. So luckily I was still living with my parents. I quit the job, and I didn't have a job for a little while because I was still looking for something. And then I found a job. I got a job at 24 Hour Fitness. So I was working there for a little bit as a receptionist in the front. And then COVID happened,
Oh shit.
and yeah, and then I started the OnlyFans. I started OnlyFans, and everything changed.
Really?
Everything changed. Everything changed. I was like, what the fuck have I been doing this whole time? I should have done it a long time ago. Like,
It was that fast?
yes,
Really?
like the first day I had it, I made like 3 grand.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was like it was that big of a difference. And oh man, so it's just been growing now, and now I have an assistant,
Yeah.
and it's just taking a little bit longer because I didn't put in the effort that I needed to at the beginning.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit different, and yeah, I'm just excited.
You had a
But
you had a huge following, or you have a huge following on social media. Did you have that following when you started OnlyFans?
I had, I think, about 60K maybe.
Okay.
And at the time, I was already trying to transition from just the modeling into something that was going to be more real because I felt like I've always wanted to do something along those lines. Like whenever anyone asked me, "Oh, if money wasn't the problem, what would you want to do?" I was like, "Man, I would want to just be myself. I just
Yeah.
want to be me and get paid for that shit. Like that's what I want to do." Like, and somehow it just so when I was making that transition, I was stuck at that following for a very long time, but I think it was because I was losing, but I was still gaining followers. So I
Mm.
was losing all the people that didn't care about the real stuff that I was talking about, but I was gaining all the people that were relating to me because I was sharing my journey. I was sharing everything I was struggling with. And now it's been past that, and now it's just grown. And if finally reached like 100K recently, and I was really excited about that because I was like, man, like this is happening. It's
Yeah.
slowly, but it's happening. You know, I feel like I was stuck somewhere for a very long time, but now that I've been putting all that work in, now it's happening. It's
It's
going.
it's freaking amazing. If I was a girl, like I would be posting like my vagina, like my tits everywhere. Like I'm a little jealous. I really am. Like
it's
I don't think I could do nudes and make a lot of money.
it's so unfortunate, right? That it's so easy for women to just do that, right?
Yeah.
It's I feel like also sometimes I feel I've that was part of my guilt as well. Like damn, did I just sell my soul and I just like took the easy route, you know? But there's nothing easy about it.
Yeah.
Even just doing that, being on there and messaging people and making sure you're creating content, getting the scrutiny that comes with that stuff, the like everything. It wasn't the easier. It's still
Yeah.
really hard. But
Do you listen to Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura podcast?
no.
It's called Two Bears One Cave. They're really funny. They're both comedians, and they recently had a porn star on. I forget her name. It's Adriana Chechik, I think.
Huh.
Um, and she was talking about kind of the same thing you were. She was saying that being in porn, at least for her, it's like tougher than a real job because she's basically like an athlete. She's training. She's always dieting. Like she opened up about like this whole other side that we in the like normal in the public community don't see. So there's
Yeah.
like you were just talking about. There's this whole other side that a lot of people aren't aware of
Yeah.
being an OnlyFans model. What was that first picture like that you did? Like, do you remember what was the first post you did? Was it kind of
I think it was I think it was like a bathroom pic in like
Mm,
similar to what I post on my Instagram.
okay.
And I a lot of the stuff began with similar things as my Instagram. And then I started to realize I'm like, damn, these people really support me for who I am because this is still stuff that's on my Instagram. And I was like blown away at the amount of people that wanted to be on there and like have more exclusive content of me. So I was like, man, I could do this.
Yeah.
I could do this. And I just kept going and yeah,
So
it's
what
yeah, that first pic was something similar to my Instagram, like in like a bra and underwear, like something
yeah.
sexy like that.
Do you like
Yeah.
what kind of content do you do on your OnlyFans? Do you do like is it full nude and like sex stuff? Like what do you
Now
do?
it's now it's gone
It's going all the
to
way?
where it's yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it do you get nervous like you work with do you film yourself or do you work like with videographers?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't work with the videographer. Everything's just myself.
Okay.
And um my boyfriend, which is now my ex-boyfriend, unfortunately,
Mm.
we would do things together. And I feel like a lot of people on there do different things with different people. And like, I never wanted to do that. I never even wanted to get it to that extent to where it's like sex stuff and whatever. But we were like, let's make more money. Like let's
Yeah.
go, let's do it.
It's
And
it's so like dope because you don't have to go in and like fight traffic and like deal with coworkers that you don't like. Like you're self sufficient on what you want to do. It's like it's a whole
yeah,
nother world that I wish I could experiment with. You know what I mean? Like, cause I got a full time like corporate job that
yeah,
like they're large. It's a large company, so now we're going through cuts, like, and we have to worry about that, and
yeah,
like stuff like if you could be self sufficient, like
yeah.
I think that's the ultimate goal.
Oh man, I've realized that even though it's not I the ideal profession that I never like ever pictured for myself, or even just something that was gonna be that was gonna get me to the point where I have the freedom that I've always wanted. And I that's another thing too. I had to break that down from the guilt. I'm like, but what were the benefits of actually making the OnlyFans account? Looking everything. I wouldn't have found the friends that I have right now. I wouldn't have the assistant I have right now. And I'm helping her with her life, like helping her have more free time where she's not working 3 jobs, 4 jobs. She's out here doing things for me, and we're hanging out, building a friendship, and that's what I wanted to do anyway. I've always wanted to just help people, and even though I'm doing this type of work, my mind is not really like, oh, I want to go buy expensive bags and expensive things like that. No, my goal is to make a difference regardless of what I'm doing for money.
Yeah,
And so I want to make sure that I stay true to that regardless, and open about what I do, because I also feel like if you're not open about what you're doing, people see right through that
yeah,
all the time. So, and I don't think I would want to follow someone or look up to someone that isn't honest about what they're doing or who they are as a person, whether it's on social media or off social media, right?
yeah,
uh, you want to connect with someone for being real and for who they are. So I've always held myself to that type of standard. Like I'm like, damn, I have to just be 100 all the time, regardless of who it is that I'm speaking to. If it's someone who's like a janitor or someone who is a celebrity, right? You
right.
treat everyone the same way. And my parents taught me that. Like they treat everybody with respect, doesn't matter who it is. So
Yeah, I know
yeah.
that's really important. It sounds like you're still kind of like struggling, or maybe not struggling, but like wrestling with like, okay, like society has
Hmm.
this structure that we're supposed to make money in, and like you're venturing. We're like certain people are able to venture out of that box, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's like freaking awesome. That's um, I'm trying to get to that like that mode of like, okay, my family thought that I had to go to school and to go
Hmm.
to school to get a good job and like live this life. But the more and more I talk to people like yourself and other people on the podcast, I'm like, there's this whole other like way of thinking that's not the way I grew up thinking or what I was raised with. And it's
Yeah.
like you just have to like tap into that and start like exploring this whole other world. Like there's this structure world, and then there's like, oh yeah, there's this whole other world too. You know what I mean?
The black
Yeah.
sheep community, right? That's what everybody calls us.
Yeah.
The, or the red pill community, is that what people call it?
I think
Something
it's
like
a.
that.
I've heard the black sheep before, not the red pill though. But that's a
Yeah,
good one.
it's not the norm. It's really not, but I don't know. I feel like I don't want to discredit all the hard work that I do just because society thinks that it's not right. It doesn't mean that I don't work hard. It doesn't mean that I'm not making a difference somehow. But they try, people do try to criticize me and say things to me like, oh, you're over here half naked, but you're talking about mental health. Like, why can't I do that?
Right.
Why not? Like, I've been through depression, I've been through anxiety, I've been through alcoholism, I've done all of these things. Why am I not why isn't it okay for me to share my story to help other people? Yeah, maybe some other women who do the same thing I do, their mind's different places, right? No judgment to them, but I'm not there. That's not my that's not how I do things. So I want to make sure that regardless of what people say or say that I can't talk about mental health or that I can't talk about my sobriety journey, none of that because I post sexy pics or whatever. It's I'm just like, man, you guys are just
Sounds like
close-minded people, you know?
yeah, it sounds like they might be jealous. Like a
Probably.
lot of it is jealousy, right? Because you're a pretty girl, you're making money
Yeah.
on Instagram and social media or
Yeah.
OnlyFans. So a lot of it has to be coming from jealousy, I think, more than anything
Yeah.
else. So they're just
I can't
haters.
believe that.
Yeah, so
So
sounds like a bunch of haters. Yeah, who says like you can't do two things? Like that's stupid. Like, oh, you do this thing, so you can't do that thing. Like, you know
yeah,
what I mean? That's so dumb.
exactly. I feel like there's no right or wrong way of doing things. There's just different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just also I learned in that class that I did, the instructor, he said something along the lines as like the few do what the many suppress. So
Mm.
he was like he tried to like get some advice from like a porn star himself. He said that the porn star was like, why would you want to talk to me? Like, because that's how people treat people who do stuff like that. Like they judge you and like shun you, like whatever. So he was like, man, I need to see what you're doing because I have marriages that I'm counseling that aren't even touching each other anymore. Like they
Mm.
don't have intimacy in their relationship. So I need to see what kind of stuff that you're doing so I could teach them. So he's like, I figured that out, that the few do what the many suppress. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty crazy way to look at it.
Yeah, no,
So
that's real deep. Well, it's even like I've been drawn. I guess listening to Joe Rogan has like introduced me to other comedians, and like I was just telling you about Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura. Like there's some like deep thought thinkers of our society, like this time that we're living in, and even though they're comedians, they provide like such a great nuanced perspective on everything that's happening in the world, and it's like fresh. And I would have like never thought like before I got the job I'm at now, I worked in radio for 10 years and I worked in news radio, and I always thought like because of I worked in news radio, I have to listen to like other news people give an update on what's going on across the country or across the world. And now I don't feel that way because I've listened to other people that have the like great perspectives. And it's the same
yeah,
thing, like, talking to a porn star about like, how to enhance your sex life or your personal life. That's
yeah,
probably like those are probably the best people to talk to about that kind of thing, you know?
100%.
Um,
Yeah,
do you,
that's
do
what
you,
you're gonna ask.
do you think that you'll venture off into like porn, or is that something that's not on your radar?
No, I
No.
don't I don't think so. I feel like I've gotten asked before, but I also feel like I can't say never
Yeah.
because I was so adamant for so long about never doing OnlyFans, and that obviously changed. It ended up happening and it changed my life. But I don't know. I don't know where I don't see myself doing that. I feel like I'm at a good place right now as far as money and what I want to do with it. And I don't think that that's something, yeah, I don't really see myself doing something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Do
yeah.
do guys do OnlyFans?
Yes, I had
Really?
a friend. Okay, so part of the reason too that I ended up making one was because I had a friend around that time who he had like, I don't know, maybe 30,000 followers on Instagram. And he was like, he's a pretty built guy, like physique wise, like he trained and he had a ton of followers on there and they were mostly girls and obviously gays and they just thought he was sexy, right? He's like, man, he made an OnlyFans. He said that he was making 50,000 a month.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, bro, let me get on this. Like, why? Like, let's go. And
Uh,
yeah, convinced me to do it. So
that's so
yeah,
insane. What
yeah.
so how much thought do you put into like taking the photo, setting the scene, setting your prices, like how much you put a lot of thought in that, or you do kind of do what like other people are doing?
I tried. So when I first started, I was looking into how other models were doing it. And then I kind of went off of what I wanted to
Hmm.
do. So I feel like regardless of the pricing or whatever, or posting anything that's uh I guess I just thought like, okay, these people support me for who I am. I could post whatever and they're gonna love it regardless. So, but now I feel like I've been doing it a little more on a higher scale. Like I'm booking locations now to actually take these pictures, or before it wasn't too much like thought into it. I would just take like mirror pictures or just record something random, and now I'm putting a little more structure to it because I'm trying to scale it to a whole different level.
Yeah.
So um yeah, and then pricing wise, I feel like I had set it to a certain price, but when I wasn't on there too often, I would bring the price down, or it just depended on how they were responding to everything. And if I wasn't on there too much, they'd get a little bit upset because that's what they're paying for, like
Yeah.
they're paying to talk to me, so I gotta be on there. And so yeah, it's a lot of work either way. Like
Yeah.
you gotta be there and almost 24/7 having a conversation with each individual, and
Yeah.
making sure
Oof.
you're yeah, making sure you're uh like if they're asking for something specific, you're giving them what they want, and then making sure you're not sending the same videos and like, okay, what
Mm.
did I send this person? All right, I have to send this other thing, and then you have to think of another video to make that's not the same thing, and it's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
So
So how do you balance that out with your mental health? Because even doing the podcast and having a post on social media and trying to build a following on YouTube and everything, it's exhausting. Like I don't like doing it. So I can only imagine like you actually have a lot of followers and you have to, cater to them. So how do you balance that?
honestly, it's been so hard, so hard. And that's why I got an assistant now that I'm able to I have that certain amount of income that I'm like, okay, now I can hire someone that's going to help me lighten the load.
Mm,
There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I have to reply to comments, I have to look at DMs, making sure I'm not missing things, look through emails and all this stuff, right? Making sure that I stay engaged, making sure that I'm still creating the content, making sure I'm posting, making reels, and all this stuff. So my mental health would take the back seat during everything. And I would go so hard for a certain amount of time that I would have to like take a break for a day or two.
mm,
That I would just be like, okay, I can't come up with anything to post today. I can't come up with this because I'm just so overwhelmed with everything that I have to get done that I would have to like chill. But because of having OnlyFans and not having to worry so much about having to post so often now, I've been able to dive in so much more into my mental health. Like now I've, looked into like spiritual stuff, different medicinal things, and
yeah.
I have the time to go make actual like connections and relationships with people who are more into the stuff that I'm into as far as spirituality goes, and trying to figure out more of like shadow work and just trauma work and all that stuff. So and all that goes into it. And because I don't have a 9 to 5 job,
Yeah.
I'm able to do it now, and actually really spend time and really dissect things that are affecting me mentally. And I feel like I've gotten to a whole different place now. I feel like a whole different person.
Yeah.
I
It
people
comes
that,
it comes
yeah, go
across.
ahead.
I was gonna say it comes across in stuff that you share, and um, like you can tell, and it's amazing that you can even see it. So like it means that it's pretty sincere. If I can like tell through a video that I'm watching on my phone that you're really intrigued and you're working on your mental health, like it comes across. So what are some things that like have worked for you?
I started what completely transformed my life. First of all, was okay. So my ex boyfriend played a big role in me deciding to get sober.
Mm.
I feel like he was the only person in my life that was holding me accountable to the things that I was saying I wanted to do, but never did. And there was a lot of that going on at the beginning of everything. And so I got sober, and then I actually started to experiment with mushrooms. So I started to microdose,
Mm.
and my life after that was like it just changed drastically. I started to see things a little bit differently. I wanted to dive into other things, and I was just seeking knowledge. I always wanted to like read things, go into things a little bit deeper, and especially when I had to do about mental health and what I was feeling, I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I being triggered? Where's this coming from? And I always wanted to like just look into that. So microdosing was a big part of it. And then I started to do Reiki healing. I'd go
Mm.
get Reiki sessions done. And yeah, I feel like I touched on meditation. I've done that. And I got surrounded by amazing individuals that are more into like that type of spirituality stuff. And I've been able to feel like I can actually open up about things that I'm feeling and things that I'm coming, like, I guess, into my awareness, and just like, okay, I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling this type of thing. And they know already because they've been through it. So it's been interesting. It's been a very interesting journey when it comes to all that stuff. But definitely, I would say the mushrooms were like a really big thing in my growth as far as mental health goes,
Yeah.
for sure.
I want to try
Have you
that.
heard of Michael Pollan before?
No, I have not.
Michael Pollan. I think he's also on one of Rogan's podcasts, but he has a book called Change Your Mind, I think, and he talks about micro or mushrooms. And he said this analogy that I feel is perfect. He said that when you're microdosing on mushrooms, it's like new fallen snow.
Mm.
You Because before the fallen snow, there's grooves and stuff of where you're going, right? But when you microdose on mushrooms, it's like new fallen
Oh.
snow, and you create your own grooves. Like you're not
Hmm.
doing the same habits. And it's so true. It's so true. It's you're able to go more in the flow of what's going on in your life, not trying to control everything that's going on. Like, okay, I'm gonna like it's amazing. It's
Hmm.
amazing.
I need to check it out. I've tried microdosing one time, and I was such a little punk that I didn't take enough, so I didn't feel anything. Or at least I don't think I did. And then I haven't tried it again. That was a while ago. I tried smoking like marijuana, but I don't think marijuana. I need something to calm me down though, so maybe I'll give microdosing again. Give it a try
Yeah,
again.
I'm definitely not a weed person either. I give myself anxiety. I get paranoid if I ever did smoke weed. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't do this. But when I did the mushrooms, the my friend who supplies it for me, he grounds it very finely, and I only take like a quarter spoon of whatever it is I'm taking.
Mm.
Like I'll put it in my water or in a tea or something, and I don't even drink the whole tea. I just take sips of it or sips of the water, and I kind of ease into it and see how I feel. And I'm like, okay, I feel good. It's taking the edge off. Then I'm able to like go on with my day, and I don't
Yeah.
even take anything again until the next day, and I'll drink the same water again,
Wow.
like take a couple sips, and I'm fine. But that's also you being aware of your body and being like, okay. And I've done to where I've drank the whole quarter teaspoon that he's recommended, and I'm like, holy shit, I need to lay down. It's not good. So kind of have to trial and error and see where your kind of, what is that, your threshold is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm hoping
yeah.
mushrooms. Like I even done like the like gummies and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got some stuff that was like the guy was like, "Hey, this is for like focus. Like you take this like during work and stuff." So you know, I did it and definitely was not made me focus. Like it made me like super paranoid, super tired.
Oh
and like it
man.
was almost put me to sleep almost. Like I was like looking at the thing, I was like, you sure it's like focus energy? So I don't think like THC or CBD is my thing.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely. I feel like that's also something to keep in mind too if you ever do want to do like try microdosing. Different mushrooms cause different effects for different people.
mm,
So the first batch I got with my friend was where I freaking went through my whole spiritual awakening. Like I went through all of that stuff. And then the second batch that he gave me wasn't as good. I would feel a little bit like depressed. I would feel like I was purging a lot of emotions all the time. Um, which also was really good because that helped me dive in a little bit more into shadow work and stuff like that. But this third batch, he's like, "Oh, I'll give you a new one." And I tried a third batch, and that was different. I think this is my third batch,
hmm.
and he's like, and I told him I was like, "This is amazing. This one, I'm just like happy. I feel great." Like, he's like, "Oh yeah, I've heard so many good things about this batch." Like, he said that his friend that also tried the same ones said that it's like falling in love again. And I'm just like, I can totally agree with that.
Wow.
Like you're literally just happy. And yeah, so it just depends on also with the mushrooms, like which ones you're trying and
Yeah.
what or who you're getting them from too. You gotta get it from a trusted source, I'm assuming. But
Yep.
because they're working on legalizing that stuff, right? Or
I
something
mean,
like that.
I feel I know like there's organizations working with um, military vets on like mental issues, and
Yeah.
they're doing like they're having some great success. There's even a couple of organizations I've reached out to them in Austin, um, that you know are geared towards like mental health issues. Um, so I'm trying to get a couple of them on the podcast actually. So I don't know where it's at from like a legislation standpoint, but I know like they're working towards legalizing it, but who knows when that's going to happen.
I've heard I feel like I've seen something recently that they're like close or something to legalizing psychedelics.
That'd be, I
And
mean, alcohol. Like it's crazy that we can
I was about
like,
to say that right now. I was like, man,
it's crazy that we can go get alcohol and like just get it. You know what I mean? Like it's like what it does to your brain and like your body and like your like each individual cell in your body, how it damages it, but we can get it. Like it's pretty crazy, but we can't like smoke marijuana.
yeah. And have you gone down that rabbit hole where it says like, oh, they call alcohol spirits for a
Yeah.
reason, and like it's supposed to be something that kills your soul, and it's true. Like whenever I look at videos or just Snapchat memories that come up in my Snapchat of me when I was going through my alcohol issues,
Mm.
I look at those videos and I look at myself. I'm like, man, I just like it makes me almost cringe, and I'm just like, I was lost. Like it just, I look like a whole different person, and I look and I look into my eyes, and I'm like, man, I was like dead inside. I felt like I was dead inside,
Yeah.
and yeah, and some people don't even pay attention to that feeling though, right?
No.
It's like they just go through life and like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I don't have a problem. But then that's the first step is figuring out that you do have a problem. I know I did because whenever I was drinking, everybody would stop drinking, but then I was like, I was still drinking.
Damn.
I'm like maybe this isn't normal. I don't know. This is not normal. That I'm still drinking the next day and then the next day, and yeah, I would go on binges for like a week or two sometimes, and the hangovers were awful.
Yeah, I can
I
only
feel like I
imagine.
almost had a seizure one time. I like coughed up blood once. It was crazy.
God.
I don't know I was literally doing that to myself, like
I,
my own body.
I don't think I had a problem. So I worked, I mentioned this, but I worked in radio and one of the stations I worked at for a while was a hip hop radio station in Austin. So we, we're going to like clubs and partying every night. And, it got to a point where I was like sick of drinking. Like, so now it's like so much so where I don't even like drinking. I don't enjoy drinking at all, but I don't think I ever had a problem with it. Like but I would remember drinking till I passed out. And then I don't know, like I even look at, like you mentioned, it's funny you mentioned memories because just a couple of days ago, I was looking at like Facebook memories And I was like, I was obviously posting some stuff when I was drunk. And I was like, what the hell was wrong with me then? Like, what kind of person was I? Like, I was just posting this shit on Facebook while I was drunk. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, I'm like, God, I don't know what that is.
That's good though. You
Yeah.
know, you that's good to see. As much as I don't like seeing those videos, I just look at myself and I'm like, man, I really did that shit, man. Like I
Yeah.
really did that. I completely changed my life around. And like I said, it's just I don't like to see it, but I was like, man, I need to share this stuff with people because I don't know who it can help. Like you just never know who you and I that's why I keep that always in the back of my head too, that I'm like, man, I need to share with whoever I need to share with. We're having a conversation. I always tap into some sort of like fasting conversation or diet and just like being sober and stuff like that. And it's always really cool to
Yeah.
share that stuff. Yeah.
Well, keep doing your thing, Crystal. I thoroughly enjoyed this podcast, and anytime like you want to talk or you have something that you want to talk about, let me know because like I enjoy talking with you.
Thank
It's not a
you.
boring. I do some conversations sometimes with people. I'm like, oh God, I can't wait to get off. But this was this is fun though. Like I
Yeah,
appreciate
I
everything you have
agree.
to
I
say.
had a really good time. It was nice talking. It felt like it was a really genuine conversation.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
So anytime you want to talk, just let me know. Oh, real quick, can you what's your social media accounts, your OnlyFans and all that stuff, and I'll make sure to put it back in the video.
Everything is, you could probably just Google Cristal Aguirre and everything comes up there. So
Okay.
it'll be on my Instagram, my Twitter, all that's on there. So YouTube too, that's all there. So
All right,
yeah.
perfect. Well, I had fun with you. I'll let you know when this comes out, and I'll send you all the links and stuff.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Crystal. Have
Thank you
fun
so much
making your
for having
content.
me.
Yep. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Talk to you
Okay.
later. Bye.
Bye.